Welcome back to the Rahway JAG 101 podcast. I'm your host Nicholas Iwarmi. In each episode, we sit down with a guest who shares their story, the challenges they've overcome, and the lessons they've learned. Today, we're excited to have Captain Gonzalez from the Rahway Fire Department with us. Let's dive into his journey. My first question for you today is: what made you decide to become a firefighter, and was this something that you always wanted to do?
Well, first off, it's a pleasure to be here, walking these hallways and expressing my story. And yeah, I know we're good. Just excited to be here and give you guys my little story. Was I excited? Well, I never thought I'd be a firefighter as a kid. I always wanted to be a police officer. One of the biggest things that I learned as I got older was I always wanted to serve my community in some shape, form, or fashion. As I went through high school, I was an athlete. I played football, I wrestled. I always gave back to my Pop Warner teams, and I realized that I always wanted to be part of a instructional part of the younger youth under me, because a lot of people didn't have the proper information. At that time, it would be related to athletics. As I got older, it would reflect into education. When I graduated high school in 1996, I went to college for a few years, but really didn't understand what was expected of me as a college student. With that being said, I didn't fulfill a 4-year degree, and 4 years later, I joined the U.S. Navy in 2000. From there, I was a police officer in the Navy, known as a Master at Arms. So I got a firsthand look at being a police officer in the armed forces. When I finished my time in the service, I did 4 years. I left there and I came back to Rahway, and I was fortunate enough to be hired by the Board of Education. And in the meantime, I also was finishing my associate's degree, because now with my military background, I had a different sense of discipline, and I kind of knew that if I wanted something, I knew how to really go for it, as they say. I think in college I got too lackadaisical and enjoying the college life and not understanding the business part of trying to get the education. So, as I was fortunate enough to be hired by the Board of Education, I was a truant officer for a year, and then I was asked to be a safety officer in the middle school, so I did that for a short time, and then I was fortunate enough to be a safety officer at the high school and the alternative school. So I was a security personnel for the Rahway Board of Ed for almost 7.5 years. During that time, from 2005 to 2015, I was very fortunate to be a Rahway football coach. I coached wrestling, and I was also a throwers coach for about 3 years for the Rahway track. So I was able to help a lot of the youth as they transition from high school to college life, because one of my major messages was what they were going to experience and some of the downfalls that they may have experienced while going to college, which I experienced firsthand, and it was a great deal for them to understand, to hear it from somebody who walked in their footsteps and came from these hallways and the city that we live in. So as we go through the process, I originally wanted to become a police officer. As time would have it, there were some issues in between and some things that I realized that I did not want to be a police officer in the city I lived in. With that being said, with my desire to serve my community, I decided to become a fireman. And in 2012, I had the opportunity to become a fireman, and I've been doing it ever since.
My next question for you is: what's the coolest thing about being a firefighter?
I gotta say, the coolest thing is helping people, being able to save a life, being able to help someone in distress, and in turn, because of my competitive background, you always feel that adrenaline rush. You always feel that competitive nature. So as we go through the process, whether it's putting out a fire, whether it's rescuing somebody out of a car accident or administering CPR, those competitive jitters get you going, and then when you're able to save a life, help someone, it's actually very fulfilling.
Why do you help people, like you personally? Like what in your heart leads you to help people?
I would have to say my family. I come from a big family. I come from a family of 6. I'm the oldest, so I think I've always been in charge, or I've always been charged with helping my siblings, and in turn helping those around me, whether it be education, whether it be just basic life skills. And I think I find myself coaching a lot of people, and I think that's what makes me want to help people more.
What kind of education or training is required to be a firefighter?
Well, you just need a high school diploma, but it does help if you have college background. They do offer fire science degrees, mainly at Jersey City University. The Kane University also offers many classes. That helps you more on a management standpoint, but it also gives you an understanding and a foundation for fire service. But to be a fireman, you just have to have a high school diploma, be a citizen, and you take the civil service test.
Are there any specific like courses like to be a firefighter? I know you guys like have to train. Like, are there like any specific courses that you struggled with on your journey to being a firefighter? Like a training course that you couldn't like get past on the first chart, or like.
I don't believe I had any struggles with any classes, because I knew that I had a passion to do this. So when you love what you're doing, you submerge yourself into it. It does take work, but I don't think I had any major difficulties in any class that I've taken so far. I've been fortunate enough where I'm also a instructor. That's where the coaching part comes out of me. I also am an inspector, so we do a lot of inspections throughout the city. And I'm also an EMT. And your EMT, you have to take a refresher course, take tests every 3 years to keep these certificates.
Being a coach, like you just said, being a coach to the other firefighters, as in like training them and bringing them up. Do you like sometimes like look at like a certain bunch or like a certain group of firefighters and be like they're good at what they do, and maybe like they're the next leaders, or do you look at them equally and be like everybody's a leader, or do some stand out?
Oh, well, I think in any job you do or any situation you're in, you're going to find who the leaders are. You can find the people who just need that extra motivation. The beauty is now that I am as a captain, I'm part of training more. So I actually get hands-on. And the beauty about any leader is knowing someone's strengths and weaknesses, right? So I think I know what my strengths are, and if I can complement your strengths and they're my weaknesses, the beauty about the fire service is we all have to complete a certain task and job. So I have to be able to rely on my fellow brother to complete his task for us to succeed. That's why I correlate a lot of the fire service to football or basketball when you're running plays, because there's no time to be an individual. Once you complete your task, yes, you're highlighted for that task, but then you have to move on to complete whatever situation and mitigate any problems that we may see. So you have to be able to see and identify whether someone is a leader, whether someone's a doer, or someone needs some help.
What qualities or skills do you believe are essential to become successful in the firefighter field?
I think the major quality you need to be a firefighter is someone who is unselfish, because ultimately we're going into a situation where people are leaving. So you have to be willing to put your life on the line for someone you don't even know. So you have to be very unselfish. I think that's the number one quality you gotta have. And second quality is just caring for others. Treat others as you want to be treated. but I believe that you have to really care about what you're doing to offer the best service to the community you're serving.
What was your first firefighter call like your first real experience? Like it's like okay, like you've been doing the training, but now you got the call. It's like it's go time. Like what was your first call? Like?
Well, when I became a firefighter in 2012, it was summer, so I gotta say it must have been August. And my first 3 days, I had a couple different. What we know in the service is just job. So my first job or my first incident was a pregnant woman at the train station. So we had to help deliver a baby with the paramedics at the train station. So that was my very first day, actually my first couple of hours. So already I'm like, oh my God, here I am helping deliver a baby. So it was very exciting. And then later on, we had a fire call, but it was more of a smaller incident. So it was entertaining only because one of my counterparts actually gave me a hose line from the house to put the fire out. So they got a kick out of that, but it was just a small fire that was on the deck. And later on that evening, there was another fire where the basement, where a dryer went off in the basement and started going into the first floor. As we entered the building, the floor started to give out. So you actually felt almost like a semi-collapse. And luckily, my captain at the time, who was very good, actually stopped us. And he said he recognized the situation and said, hey, we're going to stop here. We were able to knock down the fire with a hose line from a distance. So in my first 3 tours, as is known, I had a lot going on real fast. So it was very exciting, real fast, real quick.
What's a day in the life of a firefighter? Well, of a captain.
Well, the base firefighters and captains, we all come in, we check in, we get what is known as a pass down from the shift before. So they just give you a rundown of what happened the day before, whether it's involving equipment, missing things, or any building that has been, how can I say, that's had any issues. And then when you go in there, you have quick breakfast, and then we start our morning checks. So we have to check all our equipment to make sure all our SCBAs are the tanks that you see us wear that are full of air. We have to make sure that they're working properly. We check our gear, and then we check the apparatus, which is known as the engine of the truck. And then we do an inventory to make sure that all our tools are there. We inspect them to make sure they're working properly. And if they're not working properly, then we have to replace them, put them out of service, and we'll talk to our daily mechanics, who their job is to fix these items. And then from there, we do our regular house cleaning because we do live there. So we have to treat it accordingly and keep our house clean. And from there, usually we go into some form of training. In between all that time, if there are 911 calls, we actually respond to those. And once we get back, we have to get back to our regular duties. From there, you'll have your regular lunch, if you have time. And if not, we go back to other training and just respond to calls throughout the day.
As a high school student that wants to become a firefighter, what type of advice do you have for them? Like, what type of training do you think they should start doing from that? Like, what do you think they should start doing?
I would actually say make sure you stay in good fit shape. Mm-hmm. The job is demanding. The job is still physical. I know I may not look like the most in shape guy, but the beauty about the fire service, like football, you have linemen, you got receivers, you got running backs. So you need your bigger guys to complete certain tasks. And not everyone is 150 pounds, so sometimes you need the bigger, girthy guys to help out with rescuing bigger people. But the beauty is, as long as you stay in some shape and you stay fit in some form, you'll always be able to succeed in the fire service.
Have you had any funny or unexpected calls while on duty?
Oh, there's been plenty of calls, but I really can't share those.
Which ones can you share?
Well, just recently we do rescue cats off roofs and trees, but we just had a fire where we were actually rescuing ducks and chickens, and one of our guys just couldn't believe it, and he just yelled out, "Oh my God, we got ducks!" And he started chasing them around. So here we are fighting a fire, and we hear that, so that was pretty entertaining.
How do you balance work life and personal life, especially with such a demanding job?
Well, that's where the challenge becomes for a lot of firefighters. Being that I also served in the military, there are forms of PTSD because you do see a violent nature of life with car accidents, fires, sadly suicides. So usually you rely on your brothers or your family members or your circle to keep you at bay. And if you have any situation, the fire service also offers a lot of outlets to talk to any psychologists, any personnel, any counselors that are willing to help you.
How do you handle How do you handle the emotional side of the job, like seeing tough situations?
I'm gonna have to say I rely on my kids and my wife. They actually know when I'm having a rough day. They'll give me some time, and I'm fortunate for me. They're very understanding. I think I get to leave my problems at work because I still am able to coach. So sometimes I can leave that part of my life alone because I still coach high school football. We went 7-3. Rahway football had a very good season. I gotta say, the fact that I'm able to leave one life alone and submerge myself in the other is a major benefit. I also have developed a lot of good hobbies. I enjoy fishing, hunting. So I think just keeping my mind busy gives me a better mental stability.
What's the biggest misconception teens have about firefighting?
I don't think I've ever heard a misconception about firefighters. Most people love firemen. It's not to say that most people don't like policemen, but most people are always happy to see a fireman, so I don't think there is a misconception.
Like you said, you wanted to go into like police work and stuff, or you did.
Yes.
Would you, if you could go back in time, would you stay on that path?
No, I probably would have been a fireman a lot sooner.
So, growing up and going to college and stuff, what did you go to college for?
I actually went to college for criminal justice. I was fortunate enough to play some football in college, but I actually went to school to try and get some educational foundation to be in the criminal justice system.
And how was the college experience like?
I gotta say, it was. Sadly, I had a good time, too much of a good time, to the point where I actually lost my way and didn't focus on receiving the proper education that was given to me. So one of my things that as a coach and over time, you learn that there are certain opportunities in your life that you have to take advantage of. And I believe at that time I did not take advantage of that opportunity that was given to me and bestowed upon me. So if I could do it over again, I would definitely take advantage of that time in college and actually put more of a effort and desire to learn a lot more.
What's the biggest life lesson what's the biggest lesson that life has taught you?
I gotta say, treat others the way you want to be treated. As I said, to be a fireman, you want to serve your community and you want to treat everyone like they're a family member, and you want to provide the best service you can.
What's a point of advice that you give to people? Like a life advice to help people in life.
I would say take advantage of your opportunities and always give your best effort. Every day you wake up is a gift. One of the sad things and beauties that I deal with is a lot of death. So I see death from a different point of view. So I know that it really is a gift. So every day you wake up, I would tell the youth to make sure you take advantage you take every step to try and be the best version of yourself.
Would you say giving back is a good thing?
Absolutely.
And being a firefighter and stuff, how do you like? I know being a firefighter, obviously you give back by saving people, but how do you like stick out and give back in the personal way?
Well, I give back in the form of coaching to the youth. We do a lot of work with the senior citizens in our community. Just an example, we're having a dinner on Friday that we provide free of cost for all the seniors in Rahway. We also have toy drives that we pick certain families in the city of Rahway, and we just spend them and get them a lot of gifts and toys for Christmas because they're not fortunate enough to have a normal Christmas like other people would. So I constantly deal with that.
If you could tell your high school self one thing about your job now, what would it be?
If I could do what?
If you could tell your high school self one thing about your job, what would it be?
Get ready for the ride. It's going to be a lot of highs and lows, but it's very exciting.
Another question we have is, how does it feel to drive a fire truck? Is it as fun as it seems?
It is. You get to pull on the horn, get the lights and sirens, but you have to be a very good defensive driver because not everyone respects the lights and sirens, so you have to be very leery of people crossing streets, vehicles not pulling over, but it is exciting going to calls. It gets that adrenaline going real good.
Are there different branches in the firefighter force?
Branches as far as?
Like, do you guys have like the drivers, like certain people that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we have nozzlemen, we have the engineer or the driver, we have the captain, we have guys who are in charge of the truck. They're in charge of search and rescue. We also interchange a lot of jobs depending on the situation. So something as far as like the jaws of life, what you guys know them as, they're not really the jaws of life. They're called cutters and spreaders. But each individual is in charge of grabbing a certain tool, and everyone has a job to do. As I correlate a lot of the fire service, I always correlate it to football because everyone must do their job. And in football, for plays to succeed or plays to get, for a running back to get a touchdown or a quarterback to throw the ball, you have to rely on someone else to complete their task. And I think that's the beauty that I enjoy because I played football and now I'm in the fire service, and now everyone must do their job for us to succeed.
If you could leave one advice for the listeners and people that want to be a firefighter, what would it be?
It's a great job. It's a fulfilling job, and if you're willing to serve your community, it's a place for you.
Thank you for tuning into the Rahway JAG 101 podcast series. I'm your host, Nicholas Edwarmy, and
thank you for having me.
That concludes episode 5 of the Rahway JAG 101 podcast series.